So I'm going to show you how you can do the same thing that I just showed in the previous video, which is basically identifying the 5 values within a photograph without a printer and color pencils, and doing it on the computer instead. If you don't have access to a printer, this is a good way to handle it. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have your picture zoomed up as much as you can. And then you're going to go to Edit, Draw. You are going to start by identifying what you're going to use for your lightest light, your darkest dark, and then everything in between. So we're going to go ahead and do the lightest light, and you're going to have to put it right down here because it won't draw below that. So here's your lightest light, and then you're going to go and color in the areas that are your lightest light. This is a little bit more difficult because it's hard to control the mouse. There's a little bit of a lighter light right there, kind of comes down, lighter light right there, maybe even a little bit right here, and then here. So this is just going to be a little rougher doing it on the computer than having the control of a pencil. Okay, in the teeth area. So you're going to start with the lightest light, or at least I find it easiest to start with the lightest light, identifying all those spots. Now I'm going to switch over to the darkest darks. So now I want to switch my color to black, and I'm going to go over all the areas that are black. And again, this is just a little bit rougher. Ultimately, this is good practice, but when we do our drawings, we are going to need to have our photos larger, and or we can use the gridding technique. Okay, and then we're going underneath here for the darkest darks. The hair, all the darkest darks. There's a little bit of area that's a little bit lighter in the hair. Okay, over here. Okay, now I'm going to go over to my orange. Also, I forgot to put this as this is my darkest dark, so I'm going to put this right over here. Okay, my next lightest, I'm going to go over and use this color orange. And I'm going to put that right down here. And I have a little bit right over here. So what I'm trying to do is cover up anything that is in between the lightest light and the middle gray. If you want to have your value scale right next to you, that's fine. Sometimes it's helpful to refer to that as you're working on these. And again, this is just going to be a little rougher because it's harder to control with the mouse. If you have a stylus stick, that would be great to use. And actually, there's some lightest lights that I need to add in over there. Okay, so I'm looking for anything lighter than middle gray. And I think I have everything. I need a little bit more lightest light right here, so I want to go back and make that correction. I want to get this to be right over there and maybe a little bit right there. And that looks like it's pretty much, whoops, wrong color. Pretty much, but I've got everything that is lighter than the middle gray. Okay, now I want to go to my purple. I'm going to use purple, and I'm going to use this purplish blue actually. And that's going to be my next darkest dark. So I'm going to identify anything that is in between a middle gray and my darkest dark. And once again, there's no magic place about where I'm dividing these shapes up and where I'm simplifying it. You have to use your judgment to see where you think your darkest dark is, your lightest light is, and everything in between. But the way I'm thinking about it is, okay, I've already established my darkest dark, and I know in my mind what middle gray is. So anything between middle gray and darkest dark is this blue. And I want to get this area in here. I'm also doing this pretty quickly so that this video is not too long, but you can take your time and do it a little bit more carefully than I am. Okay, I think that about covers that. Now everything else I have left should just be middle gray. And as I'm looking around, that might be a little bit light, but for the most part, I'm seeing just middle gray left. So my middle gray is going to be red. I'm putting that right in the middle here. And I'm going to identify all those places that have that middle red. That might be a little bit light there. Maybe I should add a little bit of yellow back in there. Or maybe a little bit of orange, I mean. So even though this is definitely rougher than coloring it in pencil, you just don't have the same sense of control unless you have a stylus stick. I am not using a stylus stick now. It is just a little rougher, but it is still coming together. You can still see the image that is coming together, despite the roughness. You can also use your finger instead of using the mouse if that is more helpful. Whoops. Okay, I'm not gonna undo that last one right there. That's a mistake over the teeth to the lips, but I want you to get the idea. So despite this right here, actually let me correct that by just putting a little bit of yellow over that. And then a little bit of the blue where the shadow is. Okay, so despite the roughness of this, you can actually still see that this is a face and get a sense of the value. So that's what I'm looking for you to do in this practice piece.